Hello, we are live on TikTok with the replay on YouTube if you're seeing this right now. And we are going to be talking about real talk, women in business. I'm so excited that shortly I'm going to be joined by Megan Gersch. You may know her as the web designer, brand designer extraordinaire, and we're going to be chatting with all of you today about what it's really like to be a woman in business and starting your own business. Hi to those that are just joining. Welcome. I'm Jill for those that don't know me. I used to work at Google for 6 years. I started my own business, 8 or 9 months ago, and really excited to be here today to talk to you about what it's really like to be a woman in business, to share our experiences with each other, to answer any questions you might have. It's going to be a great conversation. And for those of you who are maybe watching this replay later on YouTube or somewhere else, you can feel free to skip ahead a few minutes if you like, because we're going to be joined in a few minutes by Megan Gersch. I've been an admirer of hers for so long on TikTok, as I'm sure many of you are. Oh, and there's the invite of us going over.
Hello!
How are you?
So good to chat with you.
Yes, so nice to chat with you too. I'm loving the space buns today.
Oh, thank you. I woke up and I was like, it's a Space Buns day. I was like, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'm actually very pumped up on adrenaline. I just released my Google Ads course today, and it's
nice.
I've been working on it for months, and I was like, you know what? I just have to press publish. I have to hit it at some point. So yeah, it feels really good, but still a little nervous even after going live. Yeah.
That's awesome. So happy for you. That's really great. I know courses can take, I feel like there's always this anticipation, when you're making a course and it's am I including everything? Am I being clear enough? What questions are people going to have? And you can always add stuff later too.
Exactly. Hello from Greece. Yes, I'm in Toronto today. It's above freezing, which is saying something for February. It's about 3 degrees Celsius. And where are you, Megan? You usually live somewhere sunny, right?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Well, okay, bye. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, when it drops below 70, everyone is like, all right, time to break out the coats, So, but yeah, why don't we kick things off with, if you want to introduce yourself so that folks on my side can understand a bit about your background and such.
Absolutely. So for those that don't know me, my name is Jill. I'm the Google Pro on TikTok. And the reason I call myself that is because I used to work at Google. I worked there for 6 years, helping some of the largest companies in the world grow their businesses through Google Ads. And then I left in April 2021 because I wanted to kind of take all that knowledge reserved for the people who have multi-million-dollar budgets and bring it to the people who maybe have multi-tens of dollars of budgets. And so that's what I do. I'm a Google Ads consultant and coach. And as of today, have my own Google Ads course and digital marketing instructor, and really excited to speak with you today, Megan. I think probably ever since I started being on TikTok, I've seen your videos and love the advice you share, and I think it's going to be a great conversation from two women entrepreneurs.
Yeah, definitely. And I just want to give a quick little introduction too. So my name is Megan. If you follow my content, you know that I do a lot of website marketing and branding type content. But yeah, I basically took my business full time in 2018. And so I've been doing my own thing for a few years now, and it's been awesome. So I love helping small business owners. And if you guys have any questions that pop up during the chat, please do drop them into the comment section. We can help out as many folks as we can. But today we wanted to talk a bit about being a woman in business. And so if you guys have any questions about, there are just a lot of differences in the ways that we conduct business, the ways that we, work with others. I would say that even from a marketing perspective, that might be a good topic to kind of kick things off with. It's I know I talk about this a lot on my podcast, but my co-host and I, Lauren, there are so many differences and things that feel unnatural to us as women, especially when it comes to marketing, because I feel a lot of the traditional marketing is taught by men. And so a lot of that, I don't want to call it older way of thinking, but it's more traditional ways of marketing that can feel a bit unnatural. One of the things that I kind of wanted to bring up is like something that feels very unnatural for me is like hard selling my business. I don't know how you feel about that. But like something that I've been talking with a few different people about this, about like how it feels so forced for me to be like, even like link in bio or like, like those
Yeah.
types of like call to actions where it's like, here's a thing, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's interesting. When I worked at Google, I was in the Google Ads sales organization. Like my job was to sell more Google Ads. And so before that, I definitely would not have felt comfortable selling. I think because I went through 6 years of sales training and doing, I do feel more comfortable with that. The thing that makes me feel really uncomfortable is trying to sell by telling someone or making someone feel like they're stupid or they're doing it wrong. And so that's why I don't like to use even hooks in my videos or sales tags that's like, well, you know what? You're doing it wrong if you don't know what I say. Or like, here are the like mistakes you're definitely making. Here's the hack no one wants you to know. Like, I don't like that sell that makes someone feel badly. I like to build them up of like, hey, if you're struggling with something, I can help you not struggle. Or if you're confused, let me help you be not confused. And I see that as being a bit different than saying, you're wrong and I'm right. And if you don't do what I say,
Yeah, for sure. There was actually a few episodes ago on my podcast, we were talking about there's actually different like sales personality types. And one is like a nurturer type, which is kind of like, I think like kind of what we kind of attribute ourselves to. But like there's like the hardcore salespeople, like those are like the types of people that always have to be the center of attention and like have to like very like in your face. It's a very like masculine energy. And then there's more on the other end of that spectrum is called the artist archetype, where like very timid to put themselves out there. Like it's very, very hard to like show their face in their marketing and like all of that kind of stuff. But super interesting to see how like different personality types like kind of play into that as well.
Yeah, and tell us in the chat, are you someone who feels comfortable selling your services, or is that something that makes you feel really uncomfortable? Because I know there's a lot of service providers or people selling products or artists who might say, like, here's my stuff.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find that balance, between what feels comfortable as a business owner, but what also is going to get your message across to your target customer. Because I know you talk about that a lot in the website reviews that you do, saying like you need a call to action. You need to tell someone what to do or they're not going to do it. And those ideas probably feel at tension with each other sometimes, especially as women.
Yeah. I think one thing that can really help too is like approaching, even when you're selling, right? Like even approaching selling as like you are just trying to help somebody get something, right? So whether that is more sales in their business, confidence on camera, or something else, like you're giving them the knowledge that can help them get from like point A to point B. And you really have to think about sales in that way, or at least that's something that helps me when I'm like, like it's less about like buy this thing and more about like here's a thing that can make your life better.
Absolutely. And actually, Jay for Real says here that they feel so uncomfortable, especially when you're just breaking into the industry. Yeah, when you're first trying to start out, it can be hard to say, like, you know what? I am an expert and you should buy services from me. But I love what you're saying, Megan, is that it's not about, hi, I'm Jill. I'm a Google Ads expert, so you should learn Google Ads from me. It's about, hey, Jay, I hear you're really struggling with Google Ads. And you know what? I think I have something that can help you out with that. Here's what it is in case you're interested. Amina says, I just really hate Facebook. Well, obviously with my bias, I'm going to say I agree with you there. And by the way, a trick I learned from Austin, who's at Social T Pro on here, is that if you are enjoying this live, just double tap your screen a bunch of times. That will send a like, which lets TikTok know to have more people come watch. So if you're enjoying Megan's advice and hearing our chat, then just double tap that screen a couple times for us. Thank you. Thank you. And so, Megan, you mentioned that you started your business a few years ago. Could you tell us, for those like me who don't know your story, like what were you doing before and how did you know the time was right or maybe not right to start your own business?
Yeah, definitely. So I have a background in the music industry, so it's very male dominated. But I have always been on the like design side of it, so design and marketing kind of ends of it. which have had a bit more women in those types of departments. But I have worked for Live Nation. I worked at a radio station here in Los Angeles, KCRW Radio, which is the NPR station here, as well as a few music venues here in Los Angeles. And I knew it was the right time to take so I've freelanced on and off my entire career. And there was a point where I was like getting so many freelance projects, but also working like a 9-to-5 job. And it just felt like something had to give at some point. Like I was going to 9-to-5 job and then also coming home and like working 4 or 5 hours before bed. And I was just like, I'm not doing anything else. I'm just working the entire time that I'm awake. And so I was like, this feels like the right time. It had been something that I was like thinking about doing. And so it just felt like the right time. But
that's interesting. Having to let something go was actually what helped you make the leap and start your own business. Because that's something we see a lot of. It's something I call like startup hustle bro tech culture of like, well, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. So if you just work smarter and work harder, you can do more. And I'm like, in what universe is that? Like, no, I do not believe we all have the same 24 hours in a day. And just because you can, to your point, work a 9-to-5 and have freelance gigs and make so much more money, it doesn't necessarily mean you should. At least that was my experience. I was like, just because I can have $25,000 or $30,000 months, it doesn't mean I should, because I have no time to do anything else but work. And
yeah, I think it's so I had a mentor when I was first starting too, that like really had a perspective about freelancing where like, he was like, you need to design what you want your life to look like first, and then design your business around that. So I thought that was like a really interesting way to look at things. So basically he had an exercise where he had us plan out like, okay, how many weeks a year do you want to take off? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 2 months? So figure out what that is, and you can like reverse engineer how much you need to make to, cover your expenses and all of that after that, per month, per week, and really just break it down that way. So I've really thought that was like an interesting way to kind of come at it from like almost like a human perspective, instead of like I want to make whatever X number dollars this year, or whatever, you know what I mean? So
that's really helpful too. Yeah. And it's something I've been thinking about in my business. There's only so much I can do where the thing someone's paying me to do is to spend time. I only have so much time in a day. And so what are those things that I can invest my time in now that will, enable me to scale? And so that's where something like a course comes in. But like a course isn't the only thing. There's like teaching or training. There's work where when I do a coaching session with someone, I know you do coaching as well, I show up to the session, I coach, and it's done. Versus if I have a client I'm providing ongoing services to, that's a lot more hours kind of week in, week out required. So I know that's something that was really on my mind coming into 2022, is thinking about what I want my days to look like and how much of my time scheduled versus on my own. Hi, Bree, nice to see you. And hi, our Mindful Marketing. Nice to see you both here.
Yeah, that kind of made me think of like, I don't know if you follow Gary Bird on here, the Gary Bird. He's really amazing. We had a duel live a few weeks ago, and something that he said in his videos that has kind of stuck with me was something along the lines of like, you can only do so much in your business until you replace yourself. And so thinking about how you can systemize your knowledge or package it in some way for like passive income, or even templatizing things, like that's like a really good way to like get people on that right track, but still kind of remove yourself from like the one-on-one kind of touch point. So I've really been thinking about that in my business and like how to like, implement some of that stuff.
Yeah, I see a question here now. Megan, what do you do now? So you told us a bit about your story and what you used to do. I know you introduced yourself at the beginning, but for those who just joined, what kind of services and products and what do you do now?
Yeah, so right now, I help businesses make more sales through creative web design, marketing coaching, as well as branding. So those are kind of like the 3 pillars of my business.
Got it.
Hi, real estate of mind. What's up? Yeah, and if you guys have questions too, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I wanted to talk to you too about like, I know you used to work at Google, and I feel like that is like, I feel like both music industry and like tech industry is like very like, I don't know, like I have a lot of questions about like the tech industry in particular, because I know a lot of those companies
Yeah.
create environments where they want you to be there all the time. So like, how can you tell us like a little bit about like what has you like your experience been with that, or like did you like it, did you hate it, like did you have a reaction to it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start by saying Google is a huge company, and in any large company, um, the way to think about it, well, there's many ways to think about it, but like, is it a tech-driven company or a product-driven company, or is it more like of a marketing-forward company? And Google is a company that's really driven by the tech and the engineers. And so in that organization, that is one where like, yeah, there's a reason Google will feed you breakfast, lunch, and dinner and do your laundry on site and bring hairdressers on site and have you bring your dog to work, because they don't want you to leave. And so for like, if you were living in Mountain View at the Googleplex, that's what they call Google headquarters, absolutely your whole life would revolve around Google. I had a bit of a different experience there, for a better, in my opinion, for in two ways. One, because I'm in Toronto, I'm at a remote office. So our office is still pretty large. There are about 500 Googlers in Toronto, but not the 40,000 people that might be at the giant headquarters. So like I got breakfast and lunch at work, which was great. I have events, but my whole life didn't revolve around Google. I live in downtown Toronto. I have a daughter, and like Google's part of my identity. And then also I didn't work as an engineer. I worked in advertising sales. And so because of that, I didn't find it to be as like male dominated and like masculine energy heavy as perhaps some other parts of Google. I mean, the head of Google Canada for the last few years now is a woman. There are many women in positions of leadership. While I think there is absolutely room to improve in terms of diversity, there are not everyone's Caucasian who's in a position of leadership either. So all in all, I think that the Google office here and the experience I had is not a typical Google experience, but I found that, you know, my development was really fostered. I had a great experience there. Like I didn't leave Google because I didn't like Google anymore. I left Google because I had just learned as much as I could learn in that environment in 6 years. And when I looked to my manager's job and her manager's job and his manager's job, I thought, I don't want any of those jobs. And so that was kind of the light bulb moment for me when I thought I have to leave now, because if I don't leave now, I'll never, like the pay is just so, so good that like if I didn't leave then, the golden handcuffs are real. I was never going to leave. So yeah. We have a few questions. Oh, hi, Sherry. Nice to see
I had
you.
one question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So is the term Googler, is that a term that they gave you, or is that just something that came up amongst like coworkers?
Googlers, actually, I'll show you something. Googlers call themselves Googlers, and this is actually my Noogler hat. So when you join Google, you are a Noogler, and you get this hat, and you wear it at an all-company meeting. I lost the bead off the top, but it does twirl. And yeah, so Googlers, what we call ourselves, and I guess in turn what others refer to Googlers as. And then an ex-Googler is called a Zoogler, like ex-Googler. So there's even like a LinkedIn group of Zooglers, and there's like Zoogler meetups and stuff like that, which it's kind of like I actually went to business school, and it feels kind of like that business school alumni network. You know, when you have a connection to someone, it's like, oh, you worked at Google. I don't know that that means you're a good person. I don't know that that means you're talented, but it's like, I know you've had a certain kind of training and environment and a similar cultural experience, I guess we'll call it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because I've just like read a few books on like linguistics and stuff like that, and like even giving like that group name like kind of gives us that sense of community, right? Like it, like you just said, like it gives you that, oh, that shared knowledge of like, you've had a similar experience to me. It's actually like an interesting strategy. I've heard a few like social media folks talk about this and stuff, and those kinds of things, where they like influencers and people on apps will give their group like a name, like hey fam, or like hey besties, or like, you know, freaks and geeks, or like
Arianators or
whatever.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, and and they start every video with that and be like, or what is the other one? Like, hey, the woman who does the tater tots, like, hey, my little tater tots. Have you seen that one? It's a shoe. I think her name is Ophelia. She's on TikTok, but yeah, just like giving your audience a group name can like really help to like foster that community. It's so interesting.
It does feel like the community aspect of building a business has become so much more important. Of course, social media having a huge part of that. Like I think 10 years ago, if I were trying to become a digital marketing freelancer, you know, well, TikTok didn't exist, did exist. Instagram was not the same. Like my strategy for client acquisition and for building my business would have been totally different. Whereas now it really is about building that community, having a content strategy. Of course, that's not the only way to build a business, but I think especially as women, who, as we were talking about earlier in the live, who those are here, often we don't feel as comfortable with the hard, you know, buy my products, work with me. That like a content-based strategy, educating, adding value, something we both do feels much more comfortable to build community. And then it's not that I'm asking something of you, it's like I'm providing something to you and you get to join in this community with me and grow together.
Yeah, exactly.
Jay For Real has a question here. How do you tackle saturation in your industry and setting yourself apart? I have an answer for that, and I'm sure you do as well, Megan. So for me, I guess I'm just really lucky and privileged that I worked at Google. So really, the fact that I worked at Google is why at least 50% of the people who I work with just like hire me sight unseen. And because of that, I will keep saying I worked at Google over and over and over. Now it's been less than a year since I left. 5 years from now, I'll still say that. So that is like the thing that sets me apart. There are other reasons why I think I'm very impressive and why people should want to work with me. But I'm fortunate that I have had an easy go of that because I'm able to say, I worked at Google, I'll help you use Google better. Done. Yeah. What about you, Megan? How do you think about setting yourself apart?
Yeah, I mean, I think the important thing is to really figure out what actually sets you apart. So I can't, you know, there are tons of website designers out there, right? Like, so I offer website design as one of the main kind of core offers of my business. But what I have found is that clients will come to me. Obviously, I have the blue hair. Like, I'm not, you know, not everybody has this, but it's not necessarily because of that, but it's like a visual indicator. Like when I show up online, that catches your eye. And it's like one of those things where like I've had so many discovery calls with clients that say, you know, they say to me like, I don't want my site to be like neutrals and like plain. And like when you see some of my stuff, it's very bright, it's bold, it's colorful, it's using a lot of shapes in like weird ways that you wouldn't necessarily put into rectangle squares on the page. And so that's why people reach out to me. And that is like one of the things that I kind of pride myself on as a business is like, I try to push those like web boundaries, and like, that's why clients come to me. But if you can figure out what that thing is for your business, like what is like your signature thing that you're doing different from other businesses that are, let's say you make tumblers or something, maybe, I don't know, the tumblers can drop from a certain distance or something, you know, like drop it
Like
off
the
a
woman with
tall
the hair
building
clip.
or yeah, like not break or scratch or whatever. That if that's your thing, then you have to lean into that really hard and like show that on social media, show those examples and like tell people why that would be important.
Absolutely. Great advice. There's a question here from Chef Oregano. As a business owner, how did you delegate your responsibilities to your employees? Do you have any employees, Megan?
I do not. I've worked with a few assistants in the past. I'm probably going to be expanding this year because my work is just growing right now. So hopefully this year we will see. What about you?
No employees. I have some freelancers I've worked with, and I do find it challenging. Um, you know, I initially hired someone to help me out with my social media, and she worked with me for a few weeks and then resigned, and it just didn't work out. There was no ill will, it just wasn't a fit for her. And yeah, now I have a virtual assistant I've been working with who is so helpful. She just takes my TikToks and reposts them across platforms for me. And I think what's helped that work really well is that before I ask her to do something, I do it myself first. So first I went through the process of figuring out, okay, repurpose.io, does that work well for me? Yes, it does. Okay. Do I need a cover cap? Like I figured it all out and made a clear document and handed that straight to her. And she does it exactly and is detail oriented and does a great job of it. And that's not always what you're going to be looking for. I think initially I thought I was looking for someone to help me who was going to bring their own ideas and put their own spin on things. But then I hired a freelancer for something and this other person, and I didn't like the spin they put on things. But I realized that's not on them. It's not that they did anything wrong. It's that I, as a business owner, like I know too much. I'm a marketer. I'm not willing to give up control of that. So it's a better fit for me to find someone who will just follow a list I put out for them. But I'm not recommending that as the path forward. I just learned through trial and error that that's what works better for me when I'm trying to hire help. But now I don't have employees, but I hired the right Chloe, who's a copywriter on here. She wrote my landing page copy and did an unbelievable job. I've had multiple friends who are like, oh my God, I need to copy your landing page copy. I'm like, go for it, hire Chloe, she's great. So yeah, it's really clear expectations and clear communication, but I definitely am a more controlling person, and I know that about myself. And so I now do not expect myself to be able to hire someone who will be able to have their own way with my brand. That's just not the kind of help that I'm looking for.
I totally feel you on that, just because like having worked with a few people on that too, it is so hard, especially when you're the face of your brand, to like have somebody write something in your voice, or even like make something that is like you've given them a template, but like then you see it with like designer eyes and you're just like, oh, the like spacing is off, or like this is like not what I would like say if I was like, this is not in my voice, or like I don't know, like just certain things. I'm so much a perfectionist. I feel like we like aligned on those types of things, but like, yeah, it is really, really hard, especially when you're the face of your brand, to like release that control and like to let somebody help you in that way. It's been one of the hardest things.
It is, but that was like an expensive lesson for me. Like I hired someone to create a bunch of social media content for me, cost $1,200 US. I'm using zero of it. Initially, I'm like, oh my God, they did such a bad job. But then I stopped, I'm like, no, they didn't do a bad job. I'm sure for like 90% of businesses, this would be great, but like I'm really controlling. I like things a certain way. I shouldn't have bought this service in the first place. And so it's like, I'm not going to say that person's bad by any means. It's just like, that was not a fit for me. Expensive mistake to learn. But now I know I'm just not in a position where I can let someone else create my content for me. And that is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes we got to learn those lessons the hard way. Unfortunately, it's
absolutely
not ideal.
Absolutely.
I have a question on this side. Do you help design Shopify sites? Yes, I do.
Wonderful. Oh, we have the same questions when we join this way. That's awesome. I know sometimes when you guest in a live, you like only see your own questions on one side. We see the same ones. That's good to know.
Very cool.
Wonderful. And so Megan, this year kind of, we're, I guess, February 2nd now. Oh, it's an auspicious day, 2/2/22. If it were December 31st, 2022 today, and you were kind of looking back, what's one thing you can hope you can say happened in 2022 for your business?
I am hoping to double my revenue this year. I'm on track to do so.
That's awesome.
So far, I'm hoping to expand my team. I know that that's two things, but in general, my big goal this year is to scale. And so, yeah. What about you?
I'm not going to say doubling my revenue. It's hard. It's like I know I could make more money if I worked more, but I don't want to work more. I feel like I'm working enough, and that's kind of the trade-off I'm doing. So I'm trying to really focus on my course this year. So I think sitting in December 31st and looking back on this year, I would like kind of course sales and digital product sales to make up, I'll call it 20% of my revenue. That's my goal for this year.
That's a great goal.
Yeah. And for your team, are you looking to hire people who, not like building an agency, but who like have the same skill set you do and can help support you in that, or who kind of have more kind of administrative and that kind of support?
I think I'm mainly looking for folks that can complement my skills. So I've really been thinking a lot about one of my other like big main goals for this year is to really lean into the parts of my business that I really love. So like I love the design side of it. I love making sure that everything is cohesive and like really pushing the limits of like, whatever format we're working on. And so I really like the strategy part of that part of my business. What I might be looking for is like copywriting. I don't love copywriting at all. Even like some of the day-to-day stuff, like repurposing my content on other platforms. I recently started using Repurpose.io as well, but honestly, I haven't found a good system for like, okay, I can download the TikToks watermark free, but how do I write the captions? I can't auto do that. I have to sit down and like, and that's the part that I really hate. So like, it's like, I have to find somebody to do that, like, or figure out that, maybe that's a freelancer or somebody that really loves writing. That's been one of my big kind of focuses is like, this is like another tip that I've taken from Gary Bird. So if you don't follow Gary, you definitely should. He's got some
I'm gonna
really
write that down, Gary Bird.
amazing knowledge. His handle is the Gary Bird.
Okay.
But he runs a crazy successful marketing agency for dentists. But he has a lot of amazing business tips and that kind of thing. But anyway, another gem that I've taken from him is like, there are things that you hate to do in your business that other people love doing. And so find those people and replace those parts of your business that you don't like doing with those people, because they're going to go at it 110% and they're going to love their work. And you're going to be happy because you don't have to do it. Everybody wins.
Absolutely.
So,
Even Sherry's saying here, you need a human like me. Exactly. Finding, that combination of what tools can support us. And then when is it time to actually have a living, breathing human, take over those pieces that we don't enjoy as much. What I've done with my content using repurpose.io. So for those who don't know, it's a tool. It's like $25 a month, and it can automatically take your TikToks. And I have mine saved to a Google Drive. And what my virtual assistant does is I just put the same caption on everything. I decided that done is better than perfect. So I'd rather have my videos across IG Reels and YouTube Shorts and Pinterest idea pins. And the caption is just like, want to learn more about Google, follow for more Google tips. And then we have like 3 or 4 sets of hashtags. One if the video is about Google Ads, one Google Analytics, one for Google Tools. And so I know that that is not the best process, but I couldn't think of a way to do what you're describing cost effectively of having unique captions for everyone. Or rather, that was what I had with someone helping me before, and I wasn't happy with it. So I went for a done is better than perfect to try to just be there across everywhere. And that's kind of my starting point. And now that I'm there, how can we start to make this better? So that's how I'm kind of handling that.
Yeah, I feel like that's the kind of, I don't want to call it a downfall or a hang up, but like that's the thing that I have struggled with the most is like with like automation type platforms is it doesn't account for like the human element, which is like such a big part of like what I consider to be part of my brand. So like making sure that like, and on top of that, like as a marketer, I consider like my social media an extension of like what I could offer to clients and customers. So like, if things aren't optimized and stuff like that, like, I don't know. I don't feel good about.
Yeah. Well, social media and just like part of what you would offer to a client, right, is creating content for them for social media. Whereas with my brand, I'm very much like, I am a Google pro. I am not an Instagram pro. And so like on Instagram, I'll even say like, oh my God, this is so ugly. I don't know what to do about it because that fits my brand. But to your point, that would not fit your brand.
Yeah. And same thing with like, if I were doing a Google ad, like, I don't know, like it's just not my area of expertise, but yeah.
And to those who are just joining, Megan and I are here. We are both marketing solopreneurs, I'll call it. And we're chatting about starting our businesses and running our businesses and challenges we're facing and goals we're setting for the year. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If you're enjoying the live, just tap that screen a couple times. We'd appreciate that. And why don't we take this question from Jay for Real? Any advice of how to niche down? I can start with that one if you
Yeah,
like.
go for it. Go for it.
When I think of a niche, all I think of is like, who are you trying to reach and what do they care about? And it's those two pieces. And so for me, my niche is small business owners or even new business owners if I'm getting really niche-y about it. And the thing that I talk about is Google marketing tools. And so when you're trying to think about what your niche might be, my advice would be think about who you're trying to talk to. The more specific, the better, and then you can expand. I think rather than trying to talk to everyone and then trying to get smaller. And then what is the type of value you want to offer, the subject matter you want to talk about, the problem you want to solve, the something that audience cares about.
Yeah, one thing I will add to that too is like, you will, as you start to work with people, your niche might change. You might start working with, group A, and maybe you don't like working with group A, or then you start to work with group B and C, and you say, hey, this has been a lot easier. These types of people are a lot easier to work with. I like the communication style. I like, how this project is flowing, those kinds of things. And you may shift your target audience, your niche, like depending on what your experience is. I know I certainly have in the, almost 4 years I've been doing this on my own. Like, so, I mean, don't think that you're like tied to something either. Like you can test out different things. One thing I will say is like, always try to follow your gut because it's usually right. I've made way too many mistakes where I was just like, well, maybe I could do like this one thing. And no, it's always a disaster. So always just, if your gut is telling you something, just follow it because it's usually right.
That's such great advice, Megan, about not being afraid to change your niche. It's actually something I've really struggled with because I'm newer to my business. I only started my business in the last year. And now I'm at this point where my content, my free value content is really designed for small business owners. But like I actually don't have services for small businesses owners. My price of my one-on-one services is too expensive. And that was something that I really struggled with for a few months. And I kept taking on, one more project, one more small business owner I want to help one-on-one. But as a result, I wasn't able to help them as well. And so just letting that go and saying, you know what? I spend hours and hours every week sharing free content. That's how I help small business owners. But the way I pay my mortgage is the larger companies and marketers who can afford to pay me thousands of dollars a month. That was a hard decision to make, but like for my own time and well-being, I had to make it. And I was so much happier once I did.
Trust me, as somebody who comes from the music industry, like all you want to do is help small indie artists and like, help deserving people be seen and be heard. But like, honestly, after a while, I was like, I can't afford to like keep putting myself in these situations. And oftentimes like those types of clients are the ones that need the most help, also like are like the ones who have the most requests and the most, you find the most emails in your inbox, and they're like just so into like making it work that, but like the flip side to that is like the budget is really low. So
right.
It's one of those things where you have to just, you live and you learn. And I think like, probably a lot of people take on those types of clients in the beginning of their business. And like, I won't call it a mistake. It's definitely like a learning experience of like, how much of that do you want to do in your business? And so for the answer for some people is a lot like that, that's all they want to do. But for me, I have, a dog to take care of. I don't have a child, yeah. But like I have a dog. I have a certain, I have a certain number of expenses, those kinds of things. So like at the end of the day, if I can be comfortable in my life, that's going to allow me to help more people. You know what I mean? So if I'm not stressed when I'm going to work, monetarily, lifestyle wise, all of that stuff, that's going to allow me to help you better.
Absolutely. I have a few technical questions shooting in here. So why don't we get some of those? One, Modistra says, hi, nice to see you. How much was it to get copywriting done? So I paid $1,500 US for the landing page copy for my course. It's a lot of copy. I think it was like 4 or 5 pages when it was in a Google Doc. And that included one round of revisions and also a follow-up meeting in a bit over a month from now to see how things are going. So that's how much that costs. And I'm just going to quickly address the how to rank on Google searches question before we come back to the other one here. How to rank on Google searches, I will just say that that is a bigger question beyond the scope of today. But what you are interested in learning more about is called SEO, search engine optimization. And the people I would suggest that you follow on TikTok to learn more about that are Goodbye Yellow Pages. That's her name. That's actually who I hired to do my SEO, Goodbye Yellow Pages, met her on TikTok. Fable Heart Media is another great one. They share tons of great content on SEO. Goodbye Yellow Pages, Fable Heart Media, and Hey It's Will also shares great SEO content. Megan, do you want to take Medistra's question here about the website for handmade items or tutorials or what that could potentially look like?
I don't think our comments are the same. So if you want to ask the question, I'd be happy to.
Sure. So we have a question here from someone who actually does content about sewing tutorials, but also has an Etsy shop where she sells handmade items. And so she said, would it be a good or a bad idea to have a website that has handmade items to be sold, but also tutorials for sewing or a sewing class, like trying to have both of those on the same website? Do you think that would be a good or a bad idea?
I honestly think when it comes to, I talk to a lot of business owners that are in the midst of like Etsy or website, like kind of that tipping point. It really depends on like where you're at with your business. There comes a point where if your Etsy shop is doing extremely well, you might want to move to your own website because that's more profit for you. Like Etsy takes a lot of fees. As far as the actual content of like, who would be coming to the website. So is it like a crafter or is it somebody who wants to buy like an item? I don't know. I think I would have to know a bit more about the business to kind of make that recommendation. Like if there is crossover in the audience, I don't think it's out of the ordinary to just make that all of one website. But if it's clearly two different audiences, so like, let's say for example, you did like sports on one end and then like cute animals on the other, like there's maybe not a crossover there. But if it's similar items, I don't know. I would really have to know more about the business to make a recommendation.
Got it. But it sounds like even without knowing the business, thinking about the audience, if there's overlap in the target audience, then it could potentially work together. Whereas if there's not really an overlap, then potentially it's not such a good idea to put them together.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah.
Did you have a question on your side, or I have a few more coming in here?
No, I was just waiting. Thought you might have one on your side. I did have one other thing that I wanted to chat about, though, if there's no other questions on that side.
There's a few. Let's see. One person, this way of WebEx is excellent. Please make a video podcast in the future. Yeah, I love going live with people like this. And then one person has a question about how to launch their business. I am launching a course to help people overcome their fear of driving. How should I launch? The course is via Instagram. Hard to say exactly. I'm not sure what you mean by the courses over Instagram. But when launching a course, I can just share, not specifically about driving, but I've just launched a course. And the way I have launched my course is I create lots of free value online about the topic of my course, which is Google Ads and how business owners can use Google Ads. And now that I have just launched it today, when I have videos now, I'll include the link. I'll maybe feature some of the content from my course and little snippets in the videos. I'll share some feedback I'm getting and how business owners have been showing that the course really helps them to help you potentially identify with them. Thank you. And I'm sure you could take a similar approach with the course that you're trying to launch.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's really important, especially when you're doing a course, is addressing the objections that you're going to get. So like, what if I'm not technically savvy, or do I have to have a design degree, or do I have to know code, or like any of those things that might pop up for people that might object to buying your course. If you make content around those types of things, that's always going to help to move people from one side to the other, from skeptic to purchaser.
Absolutely. And for those, thank you. The course is linked. I'm like not like officially launching it, talking loud about it till next week because it just went live today, but it is in my link in bio if you do want to check it out. And this follow-up question, how can I add value in my content without giving away the launch? I have an opinion on this that I don't know if it's controversial or not. I'd appreciate your perspective, Megan. But my perspective is that you should feel like you're giving it all away. Give all the value away, because the value is just talk. It's just strategy. The person receiving it still has to do it. And the doing it is the hard part. Otherwise, everyone would start their own business, right? So I'm not concerned about giving too much value away, because that's how I demonstrate that if you want this like personalized for you or more of this, then you can come to me and pay for it. So that's kind of my philosophy. How do you think about that, Megan? How much to give away versus hold back?
I completely agree with you. I don't hold back at all when it comes to content. I will show you step by step how to do something. Just because I'm showing you how to do something doesn't mean that the person on the other side of that screen is actually going to do it. I mean, that's why do you think that fast food restaurants exist? It's not because, like I don't have the ability to cook at home. It's because it's convenience. It's because you just don't want to do it, or you just need something fast. So you go there, right? So it's just, same thing for any business. It's like there are going to be people at all stages that just want other people to do things for them. And so by demonstrating in your content that you're knowledgeable about things, that you've done it for other people, those are all different ways that you can build trust with people and win their business ultimately.
As Sherry says, Megan has me editing my website every time I watch her videos. Exactly. That's awesome.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
And so, Megan, you mentioned earlier there was something you wanted to chat about.
Yes. So kind of going back to, I know we were talking about like women in business, women in marketing, those kinds of things. But one thing that I have seen a few creators do recently on TikTok, I wanted to get your take on this. So they've added a new function where you can go to another person's video. You can be watching your FYP and go to the comments, and you can respond to comments with your own video. I personally think this is a horrible feature. It feels very unnatural to me. It feels very like icky. Like if I was the original creator, I would be pissed if someone did that to one of my videos, which I'm sure it will happen eventually, right? But like, I don't know. It just feels snipey. It feels very like, oh, you're not responding to this person? Well, I will. And it's that very like sassy kind of nature. I don't know. What do you think about that feature?
It's funny. I don't know if you remember this, but when that feature first launched, you did a video about how to find clients. And I saw that feature and I was like, I don't want to just respond to one of Megan's comments. That's weird. And I DM'd you. I was like, hey, Megan, I hope this isn't weird, but like, do you mind if I like respond in your comments so I can test this feature? And you were like, yeah, go for it. But even that interaction felt weird. And then I did it and I was like, this feels kind of weird. So I agree. It actually happened to me, not a video response, but yesterday, someone commented on 2 of my videos, have you heard of blah, blah, blah? And I responded like, no. Then I'm like, that's weird. And I click on their profile and sure enough, it's the name of their product that has to do with Google. And I'm like, so I deleted it. And I messaged them, I was like, hey, use your own content to advertise your services. Like my content is not for that. So yeah, I think that the video response to comment is useful if it's in the comments of like a really large creator who like does not respond to all their comments. But then like, where do you draw the line? What's a really large creator versus not? I don't know. I agree. It feels very snipey to go into someone's comments and just like, boom, add a video there. Because then, so like, let's say I video respond to one of your comments. What if you don't like it? Like, can you delete my video? Would that delete my whole video or just delete your comment from it? Chloe says, yeah, that's so dodgy. I'm like, yeah, I don't, it's like stitches and duets already exist. I don't know.
Yeah.
I agree with you that it feels a bit shady. And if Megan,
like,
you're the best, love and respect from Algeria.
Thank you. Yeah, and like I've seen other like businesses too where like, and this is not, I've seen other businesses go into like other people's comments and be like, oh, I have jewelry, or like, like just promoting their own stuff like in other people's comments. It's like, dude, who is teaching these people? Like that is, or like that's I don't know what's worse. Like commenting on other people's videos about your products, or like sliding into DMs being like, hey, I have a new thing out today. Like,
now that you mention it that way, it feels like Twitter. I'm newer to Twitter, and I said before, I don't know if I'm going to stay on Twitter because I find it very masculine, toxic energy over there. But the way Twitter works is you just tweet something, and people are supposed to respond in your comments and whatever. And so I guess this comment feature is a bit like that in a way. But yeah, there have been people who come into my comments and insult me personally, professionally, aesthetically, etc. I don't know. It's like, I don't want that on TikTok. I don't want that vibe on TikTok.
we don't have time for that.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Oh, thank you so much. Okay, and I saw Urbone. I have a hello. I am new in online business. Awesome. I have a product, but I really don't know what to speak about. And I assume in my content, like what kind of content should I make if I'm a new business owner trying to make a product? What the heck do I talk about? Do you want to take that one first, Megan?
I will, yeah. So even if you don't know what the end product's going to be yet, document your process. So make your first TikTok video being like, here's my road to making blah, 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 day one. And document everything that you did that day that is related to making that thing. So maybe you sat down in your computer and researched suppliers, and you research, film everything, film the good things, the bad things, the things that worked, the things that did not work, because people can work for like learn from you, as well as like people will start to like root for you because they'll give suggestions on like where you can find things, where you can make strides in that journey, and people will start to kind of cheer you on. Like on social media, people want other people to win.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can even see some of that in the comments here. And I find the videos where I start with something about, here's a mistake I want you to avoid. I wish I knew this sooner. If I were starting a business again, here's what I do. Those anecdotally, I don't have specific data to back this up, but if I think about it anecdotally, those tend to do better, get higher engagement, more views than the ones where I'm like, here's my best Google Ads tip for you. Like scroll. Yours is like, there's a video where I started like, I messed up today and just like shared a mistake I made with a client. And it got tons of engagement and I think was really community building. It was not at all selling, the opposite of, but just, yeah. So I think that's great advice. Someone saying like making a bridge between you and your clients with videos. Exactly.
I think that really helps too, especially when you're sharing like mistakes that you've made, like to humanize your brand and to show people, like anyone that knows anything about business knows that you will get a lot of no's, you'll have a lot of failures, and it's not about all of those things, but it's more so about how you deal with it, how you move forward. And it shows a ton about like your character, about like, like how you work in business. Like if you come up against a problem, a client needs to know, are you just going to like dip out, or are you going to deal with it? Are you going to find a solution? Like what is going to happen? And so I think that shows a lot about you as a person if you're like documenting that process.
Absolutely. And hi, see one of my clients. Nice to see you. Thank you for your help with our Google shopping. It was my pleasure. And thanks for joining us here today. Chef Oregano, I'll be opening my shop next week. We have some other new business owners here. Any tips on creating a good online social media presence? So I think this question is more not about the content itself, but how to sort of establish an online presence when you're brand new to business. So I have one piece of advice here, and then please, Megan, feel free to jump in as well. But something I did when I first started and picked the name The Google Pro, which I have mixed feelings about now, but story for another day, is I registered the username on Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube. I'm definitely missing TikTok, obviously, and one or two more. And then I just filled out the bio section. I'm here to help entrepreneurs grow, blah, 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 and a link to my website. Because all of those get indexed by Google really fast. And so within like a week, if you look up, Jill, the Google Pro, like all these profiles would come up. There was no content in them yet, but it just was getting the presence there. And then of course, being the Google Pro, I have to recommend you set up your Google business profile. That's what used to be called Google My Business. And you don't have to have a physical location to set it up. You can sign up for Google My Business, keep your address hidden. And again, it's a great way to just show up in search results on different surfaces. which is a great way to establish an online presence.
So I think my tip is not going to be something so typical, and it's going to be around mindset. Just because social media marketing in general is such a roller coaster, you're really going to have a clear mindset when it comes to posting, not getting discouraged when your video gets low views or somebody sends you a hate comment, or like just knowing that putting yourself out there is in itself a win for your business, because it's hard and it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of courage to do so. And the consistency that you show up, in your business, on social media, wherever, that is the thing that is going to draw people to you. When people see that you are consistently like, hey, I'm not going anywhere, still got a tip for you,
Yep.
still have this cool thing to show you, like, I'm still here, like, haha, like, like, that is the thing that, people are going to be drawn to, that like you are showing up with value for them over and over and over, and really making sure that you have a mindset where when you go to social media, you are there to create. Of course, there needs to be a little bit of consumption, but you really have to get yourself in check when it comes to, okay, I'm creating for my business in the next like half an hour. Not letting trolls get to you. And this is like one of the hardest things, honestly, because sometimes like things can hurt if like you are not ready for it. If you're not in the mindset or in the space where you are ready to receive a hate comment, you can be like, rah, and really like have a moment where you're just like, you just react instead of like really thinking things through. But I think really mindset is so key when it comes to marketing your business and any of that kind of stuff. So
I love that advice of keeping the mindset in mind, because it comes before. And before you can take action, you have to be in the right headspace for it.
Yeah. I have a question on this side. Hi there, are you accepting questions during this session? It's not obvious whether you're both giving advice. Yes, we totally are. So if you have a question about business, please do ask us in the chat. Hi, Billy. Any questions on your side? I will wait for the question to come in on this side.
Here, do the Google Analytics tips you give work for Etsy shops? Yes, they do. When you set up a Google Analytics account for your Etsy, you have to set up a universal analytics. And there's a video on my profile that I reposted recently about this, how to make sure you set it up correctly for Etsy. So yes, absolutely. There's a question here. What can I do if I don't want to show my face on social media? How important is it to have a face on social media? I think you're a better one to answer that than me.
I mean, I am always going to be the coach to push you guys to show up on social media with your face, because the example that I always give to my clients is, what is the last time that you saw a video in your feed where you recognized somebody's hands making a product? Probably not super often. Faces, we are just programmed as humans to recognize other faces, and it is so much easier to build that trust over time when you show up as yourself. Trust me, it takes work. It takes practice to show up on camera. If you go back to any creator that you love on TikTok, go back to like their first videos. Guaranteed it's a different person. Guaranteed. If you go back to my old videos, I'm sure you can say the same. Like, you just get more comfortable the more that you do it. And so like eventually it just becomes natural.
Absolutely. Another question here, should a TikTok account be separate from a personal? So like if you're starting a business, should you use the same TikTok account or a different one? I think I would say it comes down to kind of niche. So I know we like mixed things about that word, like audience and content. If your business that you're starting, like your target audience is the same as the kind of people who follow you personally, then absolutely keep going there. Whereas if your target customer is probably someone who's not following you right now, or the content you're going to start creating for your business is really different than the content you create right now, then I would recommend creating a separate one. I didn't have TikTok personally before, but like on Instagram, I created a separate Instagram for my business versus my personal.
I would say when it comes to TikTok, I actually always recommend to clients that like integrating a certain degree of personal content can make you feel relatable and like more of a human. So it depends on your business. It depends how much personal content you plan on posting, because just keep in mind too, if you're planning on having 2 accounts and your goal is to grow those 2 accounts, that's double the amount of content. So if you're trying to post every single day 2 videos on 2 accounts, like, you know, I would much rather put lots of effort into one account. And even if that has like a mix of business and personal, like that gives your audience the opportunity to get to know you. So it really just depends on your strategy, what your goals are for your account. But I have a question on this side. Can I have a double niche on my TikTok account? My answer to that would basically be yes, it's possible, but it comes down to, again, thinking about the target audience. So if your 2 niches are that maybe you're doing one niche about like sports cars and one about like ballet, there's probably not a ton of crossover there. However, you know, if you're doing, maybe you have like jewelry and hair accessories, there's probably some crossover there, right? So like thinking about how close are those 2 niches? Is there crossover in the audience? And, you know, looking at analytics, doing some research can be helpful in that kind of thing.
Absolutely. I do say I do have to go in 3 minutes, so I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions. Then we'll have to end the live for today.
I have one on my side. Do you have one on your side?
Go for it. No, go for it, Megan.
So do you have recommendations for marketing a self-published book? Do you want to take that one?
A self-published book. Gonna sound like a bit of a broken record at this time for our live, but I really think about who's the target audience for your book, who's the kind of person who would really I mean, everyone reads, right? Or most people read. And so think about your book like a product. You know, what is the problem that you are solving for people with your book? Is it mindless entertainment? Is it a deep psychological thriller? Are they going to learn something new? Is it escapism? So I would apply like a traditional marketing lens to it of who's the audience, how is your book going to help them do something they want to do, and then create content around that.
Yeah, one thing that I've seen that has been super interesting to watch people do on TikTok is to tell the story of your book, but like leave like the biggest cliffhanger ever. And then like basically the person at the end of the TikTok says like, and that's the premise of my new book. And like, you know, here's the link to buy. And people are just like, oh, like I need to know like what happens to this couple or like whatever. So that's one way to do it.
I see those, like they're telling a story and then like,
yeah.
And this is the book. I'm like, that was a book? Oh my gosh.
How do I get it? I need to know.
How do I get it? Well, I can see if you have questions, but we have been live for an hour now on TikTok talking about all kinds of things. Start off really about being a woman in business and challenges we faced, how we started our businesses, then getting into some really nitty-gritty marketing tips and helping you grow your businesses as well. So I just want to thank all of you for joining us here today. Thank you, Megan, so much for chatting with me. It's so nice to get to have a two-way conversation with you after seeing you on my FYP all the time.
I know, this is so fun. We'll have to do it again sometime soon.
I would absolutely love that. And I'm also going to put this replay up on my YouTube channel if anyone joined late and wants to catch the beginning later.